daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome, everybody, wherever you may be, to the Daily Premier League podcast. A very special welcome to everyone who makes listening to Daily Premier League podcast part of their everyday listening routine. It's very good to have you back today. My name's Ken Davis. His name is Nick Britton. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm very well, thank you very much. I'm very well. I'm very excited. Off to see some football later on today, which is always a good thing because during the international break, it's quite difficult to go and watch football. But I'm off to a game today to watch England at Villa Park. So very much excited for that.
Looking forward to an exciting 1-0 victory for England. Harry Kane, 70 minutes. I think we've established that, haven't we? That's what's going to happen.
I don't think that's going to happen. If that happens, then I'm going to be very upset.
Right.
Very upset. I'm pretty bored, I'm going to say.
My word. I'm looking forward to watching it. Right. Okay. 3 things to talk about today in an action-packed programme. We want to talk about Daniel Levy. We want to talk about his legacy. Obviously, Daniel Levy has exited Spurs. Where are Spurs? Where did he leave Spurs? What has he brought to Spurs? I want to talk about that for a few minutes. The second one's a really interesting thing I want to talk about, which is the Lucas Paquetta spot fixing case, which has collapsed in something of disarray. Real embarrassment for the FA, this, and I'm really interested in your thoughts on that because it's a big story and I'm not sure it's getting the note it should, so I want to talk about that. And in the third part of today's action-packed episode, I want to use the term that hasn't been used yet but will be the sack race. Now, it's only 3 games in, so we are very, very early on this. But, we like being ahead of the game on this podcast. I want to talk about who the obvious candidates are. I want to talk about who some of the less obvious candidates are, because international breaks are a good time for us to assess where we've got to. So I think it might be a good time to start thinking about who potentially might be feeling the heat. So, first things first, Nick, Daniel Levy exited Spurs' executive chairman after 25 years. Reputation as a superb, tough negotiator, but a pretty hard man to work for. What's been your take on Daniel Levy? Why do you think it's happened now? And, how do you think he leaves Spurs?
Well, he leaves Spurs as a football club and as a business in a much, much better place than when he found it. They've got a new ground, obviously, and it's magnificent. I went there earlier in the year. It's really, really good. They've got a new training ground. They are one of the very few profitable clubs in the Premier League. He's left them very much in a fantastic state. Now, opinion here is very much split because Tottenham fans will say to you, well, yes, he's done all of that at the expense of winning anything because, of course, Tottenham are renowned for not being able to compete financially with the top clubs. So the clubs that are spending money, they're not competing with them, so they can't attract the best players. They've got a very, very tight wage structure that they will not break. And therefore, all the success that Daniel Levy has had, some Tottenham fans will argue, well, we just haven't won anything, though. So as supporters, we want to see. It's great. We've got a lovely stadium, but it's expensive. Ticket prices are expensive. It's great the players have got a lovely training ground, but as supporters, we want to win stuff. And there's always been this kind of dichotomy whereby, yes, Daniel Levy's doing a great job as a businessman, and that cannot be denied. Neither can it be denied. And I've been a bit alarmed by some of the stuff I've read and heard in the last 48 hours about his commitment to Tottenham or lack of it. I think he's been incredibly committed to Spurs. I think he's a genuine, passionate man about the football club. I think he's a genuine supporter of the football club. And I don't like to hear some of the stuff that I've heard. I think there should be, even if you disagree with him, I think football supporters and Tottenham supporters generally should appreciate everything that he's done for his club, particularly in an era where we're having a football regulator come in and been forced to come in because of very bad ownership of football clubs right across the country. So it's a bit of a split. You could obviously say, yes, Tottenham haven't won anything. The last title was in 1961. But on the whole, I think you have to say, and you have to accept, that Daniel Levy's done a brilliant job. He's been an outstanding leader of that football club, and he leaves it in a situation, and there's lots of speculation now about a sale, and that's one of the reasons he's gone, but leaves it in a really, really good place.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It has always felt like he's promoted the business more than the success on the field. My issue with that slightly is if you're not promoting and having absolutely central to your core winning things, well, what's the point? Go and run a supermarket. It's so I mean, as always, Nick, you are the voice of reason and even-handedness. But my criticism, I think, of Levy would be threefold. I think he has handcuffed Spurs a little bit with his absolute focus on the business side, and is no one ever kind of out negotiated Daniel Levy, did they? No one ever has. You get the impression that when he goes to the staff canteen for his scone, and they say that'll be 75p, please, Daniel. They say, well, I think there's a current missing. What about 70p? I mean, that's Daniel Levy, isn't it? But he's a brilliant businessman, obviously, no question. But I just think the balance hasn't been quite right in relation to success on the field and success as a business. The stadium's magnificent. I mean, that will be his legacy, I think. It will be there for 100 years. And that's Daniel Levy's legacy. One of the things I don't think he did help himself on was he's not a very good communicator. He's very rarely you see him interviewed. He doesn't really take the trouble to actually explain things in a way, and I don't think that's been. I don't think that's been to his benefit. I saw a quote this week, which I don't know if it's true or not. So I should say that, but he said he didn't surround himself with the best people. Now, that's the job of a chairman and an executive chairman is absolutely to surround yourself with the best people. But the one thing that just leaves me with just a final thought on this is the timing seems a little bit strange to me. I would imagine if you're going to make those decisions, you make them before the start of the season, not 3 games into a 38 game season. So maybe you're right. Maybe you've touched on something that's happening in the background there in terms of changes of ownership and things like that. But it just seems a bit odd that he decided to go now. Or was he pushed? He may well have been pushed.
Well, there have been 2 major sliding doors moments in Tottenham's history, recent history, I mean. One is when they got to the final of the Champions League and lost it to Liverpool. Yeah. Mauricio Pochettino was in charge, but Tottenham at that stage had been making real progression on the pitch. And the time then, having got to a final of the Champions League and been really high profile, really in the public eye, the time then was to build. And they bought no players. Then they sacked Pochettino.
Yeah.
And that was a moment where they could have really, really, really kicked on. The second moment is very recently, this summer, when they won the Europa League under Ange Postecoglou. And the response to that was to sack Ange Postecoglou. So they don't have a great record in spotting moments where you think, here's a great opportunity to kick on, here's a great opportunity to kick on. Now, obviously, over the summer, they were busy. They spent the most money they've ever spent on a player, broke the transfer record for Dominic Solanke. They brought in Thomas Frank as an exciting new manager. But the narrative that's being pushed out of Tottenham is that the owner, Joe Lewis, wants now to see a much bigger shift to success on the field.
Yeah.
And he obviously feels that Daniel Levy isn't the man to oversee that for all the reasons we've talked about. And presumably he wants to bring in somebody who will be far more focused on the pitch than off. And I can understand that because, to be honest with you, having got the new stadium and got the new training ground, making Tottenham a very profitable business, you've got a huge multi-purpose venue there that's used for NFL, used for concerts and all that, there isn't a lot more they can do in terms of building the business up. The only way to really now build the business up is success on the pitch. And if Joe Lewis felt that Daniel Levy is too cautious and his line of sight was very much off the pitch, and he needs somebody to be on the pitch, then you could argue it's a natural change. But I think it'll be very interesting to see two things. One is who he brings in to replace him, and the strategic direction of Tottenham in terms of the money that they are prepared to spend. Because if you're going to compete with Manchester City, and Liverpool, and Arsenal, you're going to have to vastly increase your willingness to spend money.
Yeah, just final thought on that. We did quite a lot of research when we were setting up Global Sports Podcast Network to look at the teams who are very heavily supported in the United States. Spurs hardly appears. Their global brand is not what it should be. It's just not what it should be, given the scale of the club. Levy, in a parting shot, said he'd built Spurs into a heavyweight. I don't consider Spurs to be a heavyweight. Do you, Nick?
Well, you have to look at the context in which Daniel Levy was saying that. What did he mean? As a profitable Premier League club, as a successfully run business, as a model to all other Premier League club owners of running a club efficiently, prudently, and successfully and profitably, it is absolutely a heavyweight. It is absolutely a heavyweight. In terms of on the pitch, no, of course it's not. Of course it isn't. And it's interesting what you say about American ownership, about America interest, if you like, support, for want of a better phrase. Why do people from foreign countries follow Premier League teams? It's because they win things and they've got really high-profile players. So they're either following a player into a particular club, or they're following a club because they're successful and they win things. So there's a direct correlation there, isn't there, between Tottenham and support in the USA, as you said it, because they've done neither.
Yeah, it's interesting. Though Man United seem to get away with it. I think that will be one of the changes we'll see. I think Spurs will be. I think they will broaden. I think they'll try to broaden at least their international appeal. But it's very interesting.
I think that's very unfair on Manchester United, by the way. That's very unfair. Because they were.
You're allowed to be unfair to Manchester United. They're just the top moving target, aren't they? That we can all take pot shots at.
At the moment they are, yes. But let's not forget the success they had under Alex Ferguson.
That is true. Right. As we know, as Daniel Levy knows, in football it pays to get your team selection right. So here at Global Sports Podcast Network Towers, we spent a lot of time trying to select our delivery partner, and we chose Zencastr. Zencastr makes it easy to bring your vision to life, share it with your audience wherever they may be. With 4K video recording, very easy AI editing, and very top-tier distribution, all in one place. If you've got a story to tell it with Zencastr. Check the show notes for more details. Right, second part of the show. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Right, Nick, you're a qualified referee. This puts you in an interesting and unique position to discuss this next story. And the story is the Lucas Paquetta spot fixing, match fixing. Well, it's spot fixing, actually. We'll explain it a little bit more, which is kind of broken in the course of the last week. I'll give you a bit of a quick recap on the story if people are not familiar with it. He was charged in May 2024 for getting booked, if you like, deliberately. So that's everything hinges on how many times he gets booked. Essentially, the way the FA see it, for the improper purpose of affecting the betting market. So essentially, he was being accused of getting booked deliberately so people he knew and himself could profit from that. There were 542 bets placed, by the way, on him getting booked, of which £46,000 was staked and £214,000 was made. So it was a very lucrative thing, if it was true. He was cleared, though, this week of 4 counts of spot fixing. In July he was cleared. And Paquetta's lawyers say they may sue the Football Association. All of the Football Association's case seemed to rest on the word of one guy, a guy called Tom Astley. So, and we can talk about that a little bit in more detail. But that's the kind of background information on it. Nick, what's your view on this, and where does this leave the FA and its whole spot fixing thing?
Well, the FA comes out of this looking very poorly. They threw an enormous amount of weight at this investigation. It was the biggest investigation, longest running investigation in terms of this type of allegation that the FA has conducted. But critically coming out of this, there was a very interesting quote from Nick DeMarco, QC, who is Paquetá's lawyer, said that there was an obvious flaw in the FA's tactics, and that was they didn't get any independent assessment of the data. And when the data went before the independent panel to look at this, who are adjudicating on this, the commission, they've released a 314-page report, which is very critical of the FA and very critical of the evidence that has been gathered. So it's a difficult one because Paquetá now is left in a situation where he's gone through a very difficult year. There was lots of talk of him moving to Manchester City, which fell through.
£80 million. There's a lot of money exchanging hands with loads of other people, and that happens.
This is it. And he's now back at West Ham. He's now playing. He's played very well in the last couple of days. And he's got every right, I think. He's got every right to consider what his legal actions may or may not be. Now, he may take legal action against the FA. He may not. But I think the lesson for the FA here they've got to take away this report. They've got to take away the fact that not only have the allegations been proven unfounded, but they've got to look at their processes internally and get them right. Because we can't afford, and it's not fair on anybody, certainly not any player involved, to be accused of something like this. When the case isn't watertight, almost when the evidence isn't there and doesn't stack up. So I feel desperately sorry for Paquetá. The commission concluded there was no evidence of corruption, and that any unusual betting patterns were more likely to be explained by what they call the rather random passing of hot tips or perceived inside information within Brazil, rather than a spot fix. And they accepted Paquetá's testimony. There was frequently a lot of talk around betting, around his family and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, there was narrative coming out of his camp yesterday that he's a very religious person, his wife is very, very religious, and they don't do betting, they're not interested in betting. So, look, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? The whole thing feels like a bit of a mess. And I think the FA's got to look at itself and look at its internal processes when it comes to this kind of thing.
Yeah, no doubt. And it puts him in a really tricky position. Clearly, this has been a very badly managed process. Just FYI, the FA is not going to appeal the decision. That's significant. I think
that tells you. Yeah, that tells you everything
you need to know. Just to clarify that, all of the information, all of the expert advice was provided by Tom Astley, who is the FA's integrity investigator. So. And no independent verification of that. The problem that leaves the FA in, the problem it leaves Tom Astley in, is next time the thing comes round again with a different player, under different circumstances, Tom Astley's credibility has been shot to pieces. So it's going to make life very, very difficult. I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's a change, by the way, within the FA in terms of both personnel and the way they manage these processes in the light of the catastrophic failure of this case.
One of the most damning and concerning things that I've read in the last 2 or 3 days on this came out in a report in The Guardian, The Guardian quoted the commission saying this: the clear appearance given to the commission was that the FA was not altogether certain what case it was presenting against the player.
Yeah, you're not going to win. You're not going to win if that's the case. David Moyes, by the way, Mark Clattenburg, David Moyes, of course, the West Ham manager at the time, and Mark Clattenburg both came to Paqueta's defence, saying everything we saw was just in the normal range of normal activities. So that's been a pretty big disaster for the FA, and they're going to have to take it on the chin, and they're going to have to learn from their mistakes.
daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Right, just before we get into the final third of this episode, which has been a fun episode to do, just a reminder that Global Sports Podcast Network is partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements, because your body's unique. And without knowing what deficiencies you have, if you're taking off-the-shelf supplements, might mean you're not getting enough of the nutrients you need and maybe too much of the ones you don't need. So Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs. So make sure you click on the show notes, use the code GSPN 2025. You'll get 40% discount off your first order. You know it makes sense. Right, Nick. Final thing, just talk about in this episode is the sack race. Now, very early in the season, this is completely unfair. It's grotesque in the sense that we're even discussing this in September, and September the 6th. But we're going to do it anyway. So, Nick, I want two things from you. I want your obvious candidate and your outsider to win the sack race. Sack race being who's going to be the first manager to get sacked in the Premier League.
Yes, we did when we were planning this in our production meeting. We did clarify this because I asked you: does it mean managers being sacked or managers just leaving the club?
Well, let's deal with the leaving the club first, then we're going to sack. You've got a favourite candidate there, haven't you?
Well, I haven't. I mean, I just feel that Oliver Glasner at Palace, who's done an unbelievable job, was very, very close to walking out. I think if Gay had gone to Liverpool, he would have just left. But it's going to be quite hard for him to leave now because Mark Gay isn't going to Liverpool. He's staying at Palace.
He still will.
So Steve Parish in this instant has very much backed his manager because he could have sold Gay nonetheless. I know Palace they'd agreed to sell him. Obviously, as we know, they agreed to sell him had they got a couple of replacements in, but they hadn't managed to get two replacements in. So right. Gay stays. So Steve Parish has backed the manager on this rather than backing the player or indeed backing the club because they could have got £35 million for him when they're likely to lose him for nothing at the end of the year. So had it been managers that weren't, that left the club, as it were, rather than being sacked outright, I think I might have thought about Glasner, but it'd be interesting to see how that plays out in the next few weeks because there's lots of stuff going on in the media at the moment. Sorry, I'm digressing slightly. There's lots of stuff going on in the media around, Gay. He was really unhappy. He was set to go. He was set on his heart on going to Liverpool. He was really unhappy. He felt, and he's correct on this, by the way, he felt that he had done everything the right way. We've talked a lot over the summer, haven't we, about players doing it the wrong way, like Wissa, like Isaac. And he'd done it the right way. He'd played for Palace throughout. Scored a brilliant goal in what he thought was going to be his last appearance.
And see where that got him.
And I can understand why he's very disappointed. But, that's football. And when you're contracted to play for a club, then you're contracted to play for a club. Anyway, look.
Well, do you think on that point, it's an interesting point, do you think it changes the atmosphere, the mood music, the sense of camaraderie, the sense of being all in it together? Do you reckon Gayhe's the same player for Palace now he was in December? He was in February.
We'll see. The proof of the pudding will be in the next few games, won't it? Look, I really, really like Mark Gay, and I can't imagine that he is the sort of player who's just going to down tools and not bother. I don't think that. I think he'll be, he's very disappointed. He's got another week or so to get over that disappointment before Palace play again. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't see exactly the same player. Look, it's not a disaster for him. He's out of contract in the summer, and he'll have a whole host of clubs.
He'll be gone in January. He'll be gone in January.
Well, you keep saying that. I don't know whether he will or not.
He will.
I think he might sign. He might sign or agree to join a club, but I don't think he'll be gone. And so all is well for him at the moment. He can just keep his head down, work hard, and the rewards will come his way.
Right. So he's getting sacked.
So I don't know. I still feel that I'd be really interested to see quite what happens at Palace with Oliver Glasner in the coming weeks.
But he isn't being sacked, but he might walk away. So who's getting sacked? I want to know who's being sacked.
There's a link here. And I'm going to come to that in just a moment. Right. Well, obviously, there's a couple of big names. I'll happily go with Nuno at Nottingham Forest, who is having clear the air talks, whatever they may mean, or muddy the air talks, as they might turn out.
Clear the desk talks, as you quite rightly framed it the other week.
I did. That was good. Yeah, I'll go with that again. I forgot. I was right on it then. Yeah, clear the desk talks, as they might be, on the back of a 3-0 defeat to West Ham, which we really don't want. I don't know how this is going to play out because you've got no idea how Marinakis, the Nottingham Forest owner, behaves from 1 minute to the next. And if you catch him in a good mood, then you're all right. If you catch him in a bad mood, you're out the door. So it would be nonsensical to get rid of Nuno. Nonsensical. He's been Nottingham Forest's best manager since Brian Clough, in my opinion. He's done a great job there. Why would you want to get rid of him? But if Nuno locks horns with him, if he doesn't agree with him, if he doesn't do whatever Marinakis says, there's every chance he'll just go, right, okay, fine. Off you go. I'll get on the phone to Big Ange.
Yeah, honestly, I think,
or somebody like that.
I think it's a very good chance. I think he'll be gone by Christmas. I always have thought that. And I think it's because Marinakis publicly treats him with contempt. And people will only put up with so much of that. And then things will break down. And it just takes one more thing like that with Marinakis, the whole thing will fall over. I think that's a good shout. Where are we on Potter? Is Potter going to be there at Christmas?
Karen Brady was on the radio a couple of weeks ago talking about what a great man Graham Potter was, and he's one for the future, and he's very safe. And West Ham do have a track record of sticking with their managers. They are quite loyal to their managers, and that, by the way, is to be applauded. You might not. There's lots going on at West Ham at the moment, and Potter seems to be the least of Karen Brady and David Gold's problems. David Sullivan's problems, but he's had a wretched time of it. He has had a wretched time of it since he took over in January. Bear in mind that he failed at Chelsea. This is his first job since then, and he's failing at West Ham. Now, mercifully for him, they won 3-0 away at Forest in their last game. Otherwise, I think it would have been a very uncomfortable international break for him. But he's got to be close. If this run of form continues, where they're not winning games, they're not playing progressive football, where they look a bit leggy, a bit out of ideas, I can't see him staying that much longer because West Ham will be in the relegation zone, fighting a relegation battle, and chairmans will just press the panic button, and therefore the trigger.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got to be hot favourite. I'm going to throw one more at you, see what you make of this in terms of outsiders. Someone I would put my shiny 10p on each way to win the sack race is Unai Emery at Villa. No goals, no spirit, no enthusiasm, no dynamism, no shape. They've been horrible this season. They've got 3 huge games to come. That on the face of it, at the start of the season, you would have thought we're winning all 3 of them. Everton away, Sunderland away, and Fulham at home. I can see every situation there where they can lose 2 of them. And if they do lose 2 of them, I think he could be very, very close to. I know he's a hero. I know he's a god for what they've done, what he picked up at Villa, and how he's been able to turn them round. But these things turn around pretty quick as well. I would even go so far as to say, I think there's a suggestion that Unai Emery is losing the dressing room. Interesting,
because I don't think the mood music at Villa is around Emery. I think it's just around. It's not even around the club or the owners. It's around PSR, and it's around Villa's inability to spend money. They've got money, a bit like Newcastle. They've got money, but they can't spend it because of the PSR rules. Yeah, it'd be really interesting. That's a good shout. It's an interesting shout because I don't know. I don't think I can see it. I can see him maybe leaving, but I don't know if he's going to get sacked. Bear in mind, Villa have had some dodgy spells under him, and he's always pulled them round. He's made moves in the transfer market, particularly late in the day. But
he kept hold of Martinez, because I was reading a really interesting article about Martinez. Martinez wanted to go to United. United wanted Martinez. It broke down in the boardroom. They couldn't get a deal done. So Martinez was is extraordinarily disappointed. His brother was interviewed in South America. extraordinarily disappointed about not being able to go to Man United, which was his dream.
Yeah, and as you would be.
As you would be. Now it really depends. Martinez is pretty important to Villa in terms of he's a great keeper. Depends what kind of Martinez they get back after the international break.
Well, you asked the question about Mark Gahey, and I'm going to ask you the question about Martinez because they're in very, very similar situations. Hours away from sealing their dream move, what's their mental state going to be? But before you answer that, Martinez is almost like a new signing to them in terms of their importance to the team.
Yeah.
Because if he gets his head right and plays properly, he's brilliant. Yeah, he's one of the world's best goalkeepers, and it's very rare you get the opportunity to have one of the world's best goalkeepers in your team. I think Harvey Elliott's a very, very good signing. I really do. If he can get a tune out of Jadon Sancho, nobody else has been able to do it, but if he can get a tune out of Jadon Sancho, that's going to be a very good signing as well. So there's light at the end of the tunnel, but they've got to start scoring goals because they've not scored a single goal this season rather, and they've got to start winning games. So it's not a bad shout. It's not a bad outsider shout. Yeah, I'll give you that.
It's an outside shout, but I think if we revisit this in another 3 games' time, and I think if they've got another 2 points on the board, things are going to start to look very, very sticky for Unai Emery. Anyway, it is a long shot. I'm sure he won't be the first to be gone, but it's a very interesting story that I think we'll continue to watch here. Right, that's it for this episode of Daily Premier League Podcast. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. If you want to get in contact with us and send us an email with your views on anything related to Premier League, it's dailypremierleaguepodcast@gmail.com. We always look forward to that. Nick, thank you. Enjoy your game, the England 1-0 victory over Andorra, 70 minutes, Harry Kane. I hope you really. I hope he's still there after 70 minutes. That's all I'm saying.
I'll tell you what, it better be better than that. if on 69 minutes it's still 0-0, I might be on my way. And
I'm texting you. Every 5 minutes it's still 0-0.
Even if I hear even if I hear the cheering from the stadium, as I'm 10 minutes away or whatever, 5 minutes away, getting a train, I still won't care. I just won't care. So no, I don't think it will. Listen, I'm just hoping for better than that.
Great. Well, everybody, join us again tomorrow. We'll be doing a wrap-up of the weekend tomorrow as well, so we can all hear about the 1-0 victory for England. And look forward to speaking to you tomorrow. Nick, thanks for joining us on the Daily Premier League Podcast. Until next time, have a good one.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.